Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you my least 5, my worst, my lowest rated books of the year in 2019. Okay, so as some of you may know, this year I set a goal for myself to read 50 books, and I read exactly 50 throughout 2019. So these 5 books are going to be my least favorite 5 of those 50, plus one that actually did not make the list of 50 because I did not finish it because I was just really bored the entire time reading it. So number 1 is a book that I did not even finish. It's a book that I started. I was listening to the audiobook, but I just could not get into the book, and that is The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. And I know this is a really well-regarded book. A lot of people have very highly rated it, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I just could not get into it. Like, it went in one ear and out the other. And the thing about this book is the audiobook is like 26 hours or something insane. I just had to stop reading it, and that is number 1. The next book on my list is a book that I feel kind of bad rating on this list because I did like it. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars, but it was kind of borderline, like 2.5 to 3 stars, and that is The Polygamist Daughter by Lebaron. And again, I feel bad putting this book on this list because the woman who wrote the book, Lebaron, it is a memoir, so it is a story of her life. So I don't want this to come across like I'm giving her life a bad rating or I think her story is bad or anything like that. But to be honest, I couldn't really get that into the book because I feel like it read more like a diary to me than a story with an actual plot. Yeah, I don't want to go too much into this one because, again, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was bad, like a horrible book, but yeah, I needed 5 to round out the list, so I added that book. Now, these next 3 books, I did read them all in paperback version. The other 2 were in Audible. So the first I've talked about in a wrap-up video, and this is called Bullshit Jobs. This book was just so boring. It was a very academic style of writing, and the concept is kind of interesting, but this book did not need to be as long as it was. Like, it's not that long of a book. It's like an average length book, but it should have been like 10 pages. This book was actually originally an essay that was expanded into this book. And to be honest, I feel like it should have just been left as an essay because it just felt very repetitive and like drawn out for no reason. And I didn't get it. I didn't like it. Basically, the premise of this book is that there are a certain amount of jobs out there that people have that are just meaningless. Like, they have no value to society and they exist for some reason, basically to like stroke someone's ego. There's like more levels of mid-level management, or they're roles or positions that maybe existed or were necessary at some point but are no longer necessary, but they still exist. And I think the concept of this argument is kind of interesting, but as I said, it was just too long, too boring. I couldn't get into it. I did not like it. So that's number 3. Number 4, this is The Water Dancer. And this one, again, is another polarizing book. I know a lot of people loved this book. I think this was Oprah's book club or something like that. And this was also one of the book of the month selections. So that's where I got this book. But to be honest, I gave this book 2 stars. I didn't like it. I thought it was very slow to a point where it was hard to keep reading it because I couldn't really get into the story. The writing style I didn't really like. It was a little bit overly like literary kind of style that I just didn't really enjoy. Also, there are a few characters in here that I felt were kind of just like thrown in a little bit haphazardly, where they didn't really seem to fully fit the story. They weren't fully fleshed out. I didn't like that. There was also some magical realism in here that I didn't really get. Like, it felt like it was kind of thrown in a bit haphazardly as well. So, to be honest, I did not like this book. Again, I know a lot of people do like it, so maybe you still would want to pick this up. But yeah, unfortunately, this made it into the bottom 5 for the year. Now, my last book on the list is a book called Falter. And this is a book, essentially, it's a nonfiction book that's talking about the question of whether or not the human race is essentially about to die off. Like, if we are about to just self-induce destruction on our own species. And again, I think the concept is somewhat interesting, but there are a few things that I really did not like about this book. Number one, the writing style, again, was very dry. It was very just like, let's throw different stats and numbers and statistics at you. And it just didn't tell enough of a story, in my opinion. Like, it was a little bit more of just like dry nonfiction that I didn't like. And it wasn't just that I didn't like. The book itself, the structure of the book just did not make sense. So essentially, this book had 2 main parts. Now, the first part of the book was all about climate change, and it was about how terrible global warming is. It was talking about, the destruction of the earth that's happening from climate change, and I totally understand all of that. I think that argument is very valid, and I agree a lot with what the author was saying in that part of the book. But essentially, his whole argument is that the magic bullet solution to all of this is solar panels. Literally, solar panels will fix all of these problems. And then the second part of the book was all about designer babies and how our human existence is going to come to destruction because of designer babies. I did not get it. I did not really understand the connection between these 2 sections. It felt very weird how these 2 sections were put together. I didn't really agree with this magic bullet solar panel thing. I didn't agree, I didn't really buy into the whole thing of designer babies being the sole destruction of our species as humans. I didn't get it. I thought it was weird. I probably should have given this book a 1 star, honestly. I didn't like it. I would not recommend it. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, those are my worst books that I read in 2019. If you want to see a video that's more positive, I did make one showing my top favorite books, so definitely check that out. And that's it. Bye, guys.